Hi, today I have a message called A Treasure Together, so here's the short version. What is shining under your opinions is far more glorious than any sense of solidity or identity an opinion can give you. Any enmity you seem to have had with someone, that was never real. You stand upon a treasure together. Only one of you has to look down to see it, and then you can share it with everyone. When you are surrounded by love, it is safe to let down your defenses and to be embraced. It is safe to remember. So what this is about is remembering how safe we are and how we can relax into the love that's here for us. Okay, so back to the beginning. Maybe I should mention, because it's coming to mind, just yesterday I was talking with my daughter's friend who was talking about walking to school, and a thing amongst their friends is when they're walking somewhere alone, they hold their phones as if they're on them or they actually are on them, just as a deterrent, to keep them safe, so it looks as though they're in contact with someone. And I just kept saying, it's okay, you're safe. And then here's this message here, you're safe. Okay. So what is shining under your opinions is far more glorious than any sense of solidity or identity an opinion can give you. Opinions are attractive and distracting. They're in movement, they flit here and there, they get our attention. Either the ones that seem to come from us or the ones that seem to come from others. And the opinions we could be attracted to and say that's right, or the opinions we could seem to be repelled by, and then we might find ourselves battling against it in thought and saying that's wrong. And if you can see, is all of this movement on the surface, it's something I tricked myself with, and I continue to trick myself with, but now I can see it. Now I can see the trick on the surface about, how opinions work and how they distract you from what is really right here for all of us. Okay, so what is shining under your opinions is far more glorious than any sense of solidity or identity an opinion can give you. So what we're standing on here together, what is true about all of us, what unites us, is so beautiful, so reassuring, so lovely, and something we can learn to turn our attention toward at any moment instead of the opinions. But it's like we learn to coax ourselves away from our addiction to opinion, little by little by little by little, by intentionally turning away from opinion and saying, I don't really know what's here for me, but something is here beyond opinion. There is something here. And ego is terrified of it. So in my experience, I'm still having periods of time when I experience very intense fear, and I have to walk through it and just see, this is what I've been attached to. Every time I have an opinion, or every time I think I need something to be fulfilled, this terror has been here, but I've been covering it up with this surface movement, or this trying to get, or this judging. And this terror is what's under it. It's safe to let this terror go now. I can intentionally focus on what joins us, what's actually here, the ground we're actually all standing on together. I can focus on that more and more, and I can know when I feel this terror, or its faint echo of a cousin, if I feel just faint irritation, that's terror. I've learned that. It's just I've successfully covered it up and distracted myself away from how absolutely terrible it feels. And it's never something seemingly outside of me that caused either the terror or the irritation. The story makes it look like it's that way. It looks like something outside of me or some defect within me has caused irritation or terror or whatever. But it's just being uncovered now. It's being uncovered, so I can see my orientation toward what would distract me. And how ridiculous is it that I trained myself to be oriented toward terror? Like, why? Why would I do that? So now you can see you are doing it to, I am doing it to myself. And understand there's another option. And of course, when you see you've been orienting toward terror on purpose, look how we have terrorists seemingly outside of ourselves in our world. Does that give us a clue about what we're up to? A tiny little clue? Maybe it would. Yeah. And so we've been terrorizing ourselves with thought, and we don't have to. And when can we stop? Right now. We can always stop right now. Thank goodness. I have such profound gratitude for that. Even as I'm working through my deep attachment to fear and my perception that fear is safety. I'm so grateful for what is actually here for all of us. Okay. Any enmity you seem to have had with someone that was never real. So this statement is oriented toward the past. And anybody you think you've had any disagreement with, whether it was expressed or not, or anyone who seems to have acted against you or harmed or damaged you in some way. And that was never real? If that was never real, what is real? What is real is my being and their being. So our characters can't ever be real, but Spirit can use the perception of our characters to bring healing to all of us. So that would be the thing to do with all the things I made up. The character I made up for me, and the character I made up for somebody else who maybe seems to be oppositional to me in some way. That's the not real part. And all the not real parts are what we can just give to Spirit, which is all of us together. Me and the seeming enemy together, our Spirit. I can give both of our characters to Spirit and say, hey, use these and use the story and use every element of the story to conduct us through and out of our terror back to healing. That's all this is good for. That's all the seemingly separate components of this story are good for. So I can give every seemingly separate component to Spirit and say, use it. When I find myself in a situation of tension or stress, which I begin to realize is constant, as I go through various phases of healing, I realize, oh, what seemed small before actually I'm experiencing is so big now. So what seemed to be a tiny fear blotted out by all these distractions, now, the next phase of my healing, it becomes terror, and it becomes obvious to me that I need to work through it and then go on to the next layer and the next. Even so, the now is here for us, and we don't have to make healing a time thing. What is most healing is here for us now, and the healing can happen instantaneously. So there's that too. There's the vertical rather than the horizontal. And as I remember the vertical and the power of instantaneous healing and it not having to take time, that's helpful too. I hope that was clear. I'm not sure if it was, but maybe some part of that was helpful. Any enmity you seem to have had with someone that was never real. We can look at the country level for a moment. If you think, if you believe, and you perceive, there are countries in opposition to each other. I can remember everything I see, I wanted to see. And every seemingly separate component I see, I can give to Spirit and say, use this perception of a country, use this perception of a conflict, use this perception of another country, use this to bring us through our healing process together. It's all for healing. It's all for healing of the mind. A sane mind does not project an insane world. So what we're doing is coming back into the remembrance that we share one mind, and that the key to happiness is to allow that mind to heal. So that's what we're about. And every seemingly separate component of the drama you perceive around you can always be given to spirit. And it's, in my experience, very healing when I remember to do that. Instead of trying to make sense of it, I give it to spirit, and I trust that spirit will make appropriate use of it for everyone so nobody loses. Okay. You stand upon a treasure together. Only one of you has to look down to see it, and then you can share it with everyone. So let's say it seems that somebody disagrees with you. It doesn't matter. Those are your characters. What you can look toward is their being. And this image I keep getting is we're standing on this golden, shining ground together. And all I have to do to be reminded of our actual unity. There are no lines in this ground, no fissures, nothing that would separate us from each other. So when I look down at the ground, I can see we're just this golden, shining ground together forever. Nothing could separate us. So there might be a perception that there's a problem, and the ego might be squawking about, well, number one, there's a problem, and number two, I have to handle it, you have to handle it, or they have to handle it in some way. So let's get to work and blah, 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 right? But what this ground is can inspire me, can inspire the one I see as that other. And that's not an action so much as an allowing. And allowing and a remembrance of what we are together can lead to the experience of being inspired to act. And that feels different than scurrying and hurrying and trying to fix and trying to solve from fear. Okay, let's see. You stand upon a treasure together. Only one of you has to look down to see it, and then you can share it with everyone. So look at the entire world as this golden, shining ground, and think only one being on this world has to look down and see that golden, shining ground and know we all shared equally, and that we're all equally loved, and that we can all allow the awareness of love and the significance of love and the awareness of everything that love can do to return to our mind, because we share one mind, and that gets shared with everyone. That's a very different way of thinking, but it's one that's being introduced, and it's one that can inspire us when we're having a personal interaction to remember to look down at that golden, shining ground and see that you're both what you're standing on. You're both this unity. And your ego might be trying to make sense and give you commentary about what's going on the surface and what all of that means. But inspiration is more like it's here at the ground level, and it can just well up within you and do you. It acts you, it speaks you, it does anything that needs to be done. This thing you are with that person can take over with that being, feels more accurate, can take over what seems to be your expression in the situation you're in. So you let what they really are run it. Isn't that interesting? If what you really are is something together with them, in any situation in which you're with them, you let what they truly are, because it's what you truly are, run the situation, run your perception of the situation. And the idea of putting all the power in their hands, because anything that's in your hands is in your hands, and all power is shared. That's a very different way of looking at everything, and we can start applying it. Okay. And as you are inspired, they are inspired. As we tune into this kind of radio station of inspiration, we share that position on the dial with everybody, and everybody can tune in, and it's much, much easier to live from that place. And of course, wouldn't you want to share ease with everybody the abundance, everyone actually has abundance. The abundance we actually have, if we can just share it with everyone automatically, wouldn't you? Of course you would. So here we go. We can just share what belongs to all of us, and we can perceive it. Okay. When you are surrounded by love, it is safe to let down your defenses and to be embraced. And so what we're walking through is everywhere we value defense instead of love. And I'm running into a lot of this. And every day I experience, and so it's all my opportunity. Anywhere I feel tension, stress, fear, I can see this is where I have valued defense over love. And yet love is here for me and everyone right now. So I can intentionally turn toward love and say, okay, you be in charge. And I will listen and I will follow. When you are surrounded by love, it is safe to let down your defenses and to be embraced. So the thing we do when we feel a defense, we could reinforce it using thought from ego. And ego is going to tell you opinions about everything you're perceiving, good and bad opinions. And reinforce the defenses, what seems to make you distinct from someone or something else. We can always listen to ego. That's our option. That's our choice. But there's something else to listen to. So when I run into a defense, when I can feel how that feels, and if I feel tired of feeling that way, here's love. And love feels better than being attached to a defense. So when I run into a place today where I'm attached to a defense, I can get some clarity about, I want to stop doing this. And I'm going to set the defense down. And I just truly want to feel better. Do you want to be right? Do you want to listen to an especially positive or negative opinion of ego and believe it and perceive according to it and separate out everything? Or do you want to be happy? Are you finally tired of being right and unhappy? And would you like to be here and loved and embraced? And see everyone here and loved and embraced and be happy. That seems like an easy choice, but it has to get put to us in those terms. We have to see what we're doing to ourselves by believing stressful thought. Okay. What else? It is safe to remember. So what are you and what have you done wrong? You've done nothing wrong. You may have imagined being a character, and you may have evaluated the actions of the character you call you, and you may put some of the actions of the character you call you into the good category, and you may put some of the actions of the character you call you into the bad category, and then you may have perceived other characters, and then you may have developed opinions about individual actions of those characters, and you may have put some into the good category, and you may have put some into the bad category. And you've believed this whole series of thoughts ego has given you about all these characters. And meanwhile, you are the being. And meanwhile, who seems to be that other character is the being. And meanwhile, beingness can never be separated. And it can never be judged as anything other than guiltless and innocence. And that's the truth. Why? Because you know it. You remember. You start to remember. This is actually what's true of me. I'm innocent forever. And if that's true of me, that's true of every being. What am I doing seeing all these characters? What is going on? And then a voice comes in, child, you've been dreaming. And now your dream can calm down. You control your dream. You choose which thoughts you believe. You perceive in accordance with the thoughts you believe. There are thoughts of love here for you and for everyone. And you can begin to perceive in accordance with those thoughts. You are always 100% responsible for how you feel. I am always 100% responsible for how I feel. Because my feelings caused by the thoughts I believe. Not by what seem to be outside circumstances. What seem to be outside circumstances are a perception I myself made by believing thought. I am 100% responsible for what I experience. Why? Because there's nothing outside of me. I am unified with you and everyone forever. And what we are is innocent, and what we are is love. But if I perceive anything that seems to be an opposite to innocence and love, it's because I wanted to. And I'm experiencing a chosen perception. Every perception is chosen. And when I take responsibility, that's the key. When I take responsibility for how I feel and for what I experience and how I experience it, there's no blame. It's just that you could see your mistake. And my feelings tell me during the day when I'm making that same mistake again. And it does become deeper. I'll go through days where I feel like the fear is constant. The fear is constant. And it's more like, well, you were just ready to see how fearful this experience is. You weren't ready to see it before. You would distract yourself with judgments of separate things, both positive and negative, and you wouldn't acknowledge the fear. But now you're willing to feel the fear. Now you're willing to acknowledge it, and now you're willing to find the thoughts that cause the fear, and now you're willing to let the thoughts go. What does that do to the world you seem to see outside of yourself when you let the fear go? Let's find out. Let's find out. Because it's safe to remember. And as we remember the truth of us, the truth of every being, every innocent being, you cannot have a being who is guilty. Only characters or persons or labels we put on bodies, only that's where the guilt lives. The guilt lives in our fantasy. The guilt lives in our desire to perceive guilt, something that could oppose love. And if I see it, I wanted to see it. And remembering that is key, because it's my choice. And when I choose to look down at the ground and see this golden shining ground, all of our sudden there's no one not standing on it. And it's the same ground under every pair of feet. It doesn't matter what character's standing on the ground. We're the ground. We're the unity. We're the shining. We're the goldenness. We're that. And then these characters seem to spring up from that. And then if we put all the characters in Spirit's hands and just say, could you please use all of this I made to show me the truth of us? Spirit will do that. And it's not a scary truth. It's not a truth you'd have to hide. It's a beautiful truth, and it's safe to remember what's true about everybody. You don't have to cover it up with an especially positive or negative opinion that would separate them from another. You can let the beautiful golden glow of this ground just shine up through everyone and everything, and just turn the whole story over to Spirit, to what we all are together. Together in one mind, the mind we share, we are sane. And as we believe we're separate minds with separate interests, cut off from each other, that's not sanity. That's denying what actually is. So today we can remember how safe it is to remember our unity and what we are, and how safe it is to allow its influence. And we can relax into what is here for us. So that's my project today. Thank you for listening, and happy healing.